We are back at the shop one more time. We are getting ready to head to Woodburn for their Fall Classic event that we attend every year for a long, long time. And we're putting the motor together and thought maybe you all would like to see some of what we're doing. I probably need to start by a very brief explanation about why we ain't posted no videos in a while. I've got one on my computer right now. I've been working on for, what, a week, Chris? A long time, trying to edit this darn thing. And, now that's funny, trying to edit it to get it ready to be able to post. So the deal is that we've had things to talk about that are not near as rosy as, hey, we went really fast, or flames out to the wings, or here's our fast ET slip. We've had some challenging things to talk about. What happens when things don't go right? When you hurt a motor, when you have crew problems, what do you do? How do you talk about that? So I've made a video, and I'm trying to edit to where it's appropriate for public consumption, where I don't get sued, and yet you guys have a clue what's going on. So that's what I've been working on. In the meantime, we thought we'd skip ahead to give you something to look at, like, what, we quit racing, or what in the world's going on? Well, no, we did not quit racing, not by any stretch. So, but we did have 2 motors to have to fix after we came home from Seattle. 2 motors because of crew problems. And that's been excruciatingly challenging. But here is a motor going back together. I've got 3 blocks. The A, the B, and the C block. The C block was my newest piece this year, if you follow us, and was a darn nice piece. That got hurt in Seattle, first one that got hurt in Seattle. It's now down at Brad Anderson getting repaired. They do a phenomenal job. They're very proud of their work, but they do really good work. This is my B block that we ran in Seattle. It got hurt too, but it was the least hurt of the 2, and we were able to get it cleaned up and ready to go back together. So we thought there's a couple things we might show you here as we get to the point where we're putting cylinder heads on, and I'm going to put some mags in. So over on the counter, we've got the 2 mags that are going to go in. That's it right there on the mag drive, and then those 2 mags down there on the end of the bench are the spare generators. There is a spare mag drive for those 2 as well. So we've got duplicate of everything. We were just doing some checking and seeing what was what, if anything needed any maintenance. So that's why it's apart right now. So there's all kinds of parts back there on the back shelf too that are out of other motor, and the Coke machine that actually has no Coca-Cola, but it's got a lot of Coors Light. In any event, so cylinder heads, there's a couple things I was going to share with you about how we do it. I don't know how everybody else does it, and there may be a better way, but I can tell you how I do it, and it's worked really, really well. So on this side, the cylinder head's not on. This side, it's just starting to go on. And so we've got 2 rows of head studs. On top are 9/16 studs. On the bottom are 1/2-inch step studs. They're 1/2 inch on the top, 9/16 on the bottom. But the top row are all tool steel. They're super high dollar, throw me down studs that are super Mondo strong. And then you'll notice on the bottom row, only the corner has those tool steel. In the middle are just the typical black oxide head studs. So let me tell you what the problem is with this Hemi head stud configuration. There is an inherent challenge. In addition to those head studs, by the way, the cylinder head is going to have what we call inner head studs that come from the head through the block, and they come through these holes. In any event, those are the inner head studs that Josh was installing on the other head that's going to go on. So all those clamp the head onto the block. But here's the point. With an injected fuel motor, one of the bigger risks in running them, if your tune-up's a little off, is that it wants to, in our vernacular, push the head off or torch a cylinder head. What does that mean? Well, exactly like it sounds. The cylinder head, when it's going down the racing track, is not stuck to the deck, to the block, like you might think it would be with a bazillion pounds of torque on those nuts. You think it'd be stuck there, and it kind of is, but what it does is the head actually will dance off the block. I've seen slow-mo video of these, and you can see the head just literally dancing. So it'll lift up a little bit. The challenge is if your tune-up is off between compression, fuel, and mag, ignition lead, if your tune-up is off in those, it doesn't matter what you do. It'll push the head off, and when it does, it's going to torch. It's going to find a path for the combustion to come out of the combustion chamber, and it's going to go past this O-ring, and it's either going to torch to a pushrod tube or to a head stud. And it's going to do that always on the top. It's always going to be up here somewhere. Therefore, the clamping pressure on the top, as opposed to the bottom, is the biggest issue for us. So I'm going to show you a trick that I was taught a long time ago from a dear friend who's now gone. The Lord called him home, sadly, tragically, with cancer. Very sad deal. Norm Christensen, dear friend of mine, and a really, really bright guy. But he taught me something really smart. This really trick. When you take a brand new copper head gasket like this, and you get it new out of the box, it does not have that imprint. So none of that imprint there that goes into the sleeve receiver, or here that comes from the cylinder head, the wire in the bottom of the cylinder head. Okay, none of that's there. It's just a blank canvas. So what we did as a test at the time, we put a brand new gasket on, then we torqued the head on in a more traditional pattern, which would be inside out from these head studs, but kind of pull it all down at the same time. And I'm telling you, that does not work. What happens if you do that? You pull the cylinder head back off and you look at the gasket. And what do you have? You have awesome impression on the bottom half. So that O-ring groove is wonderfully impressed there. The top, it's almost non-existent. Here's what happens. Because there's 8 head studs on the bottom, 5 on the top, so you have less clamping force from the top because there's only 5 studs. And notice the clocking. Think of this as a clock face. So we've got these now spread apart at, what is that? I don't know, 10 and 2 or some such. Whereas on the bottom, they're much closer together. So to try to pull it down on the top up here is the issue, where your head studs are already down the other side. Now, that inner head stud here, that's right here, does help, but that's a pretty small stud compared to these Gombo 9/16ths. So what I learned from Norm, bless his heart, was this, and this is going to sound really weird. Look at this cylinder head. I'm doing it on this side right now. This cylinder head is being torqued on the way I do it. So what do you notice? These head nuts are on. They are not run down. They're not touching at all. They're just sitting there on the threads. They are not run down. If I see somebody run those down with a gun, they get hit upside the head with a torque wrench, almost literally. So what are down? These are down, and now we're going to torque these at their Gombo torque pressure, if I can pull that hard while I'm talking. But they get torqued to what? Right there, 170 foot-pounds. So that's a lot of pressure, but I'm trying to get an imprint on the top of that gasket through the O-ring. Well, there we're at torque, and I know the end one is because I watched Chris already do that already. So I'm just pulling these down evenly on the top, which is fine, but the bottom isn't down at all. We're close here. We're close. There's a cheater bar the guys have in the toolbox that extends the length of this to make it easier for old guys like me to do this.
You modified that, by the way.
But I don't use it. I don't like it. So let me verify these are down. There. So what I do is I pull on these, and you're always going to get a little stretch as you pull, but you can tell if you're stretching it or if you're actually getting turn on that nut. And I'm not getting turn on that nut. And what do we use for assembly lube? We use Detroit Diesel International Compound Number 2, otherwise known as peanut butter. That's what we have used for a long time. The irony is that I've got really good assembly lube. This assembly lube here is about 150 bucks a gallon. It's Torco assembly lube, and it's really good. But when I used to put the head nuts on with that Torco, now that I'm out of breath, pardon me, when you would get the nuts down to tight and you start torquing them, you would hear them squeak and groan, like creak, 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 creak. It was horrible. Then somebody suggested, hey, you should change to use peanut butter like the top fuel cars do. I did that, and it solved the problem. They go down smoothly. They work really well. So now our top row is torqued. The bottom row isn't on at all. The nuts are just barely started on the threads. So I've taken that one off. And they're going to stay like that until we got the top row done. Now what we're going to do is get the inner row done. And that we use this. This looks like it's set about right. Okay. So now what we do is put this on here. And we're going to twist that guy. And I'm trying to get about 50 pounds on it because of the extension between here. 50 pounds is here. With the extension, you actually get a little more, which is fine. No, that's not even close, so I got a ways to go. I should be using that other wrench to get this tight. Should have been ready for you guys, sorry. Yeah, well, it's not really closer yet. Yeah, we're not really close at all. Well, the thing is, when you tighten these without those upper head nuts tight, they'll get loose again. So we're getting close here, though. All right. And these have peanut butter on them, too. These, I'm going to call them washers, are ones that Casey Gristle makes, a driver for Jerry Darian's car. He makes those, and they're really a neat piece. They're steel, and they are bigger than just a traditional washer, okay? So this is up to torque, Chris. You can show this now. So now, as I lean on this, that wrench comes around and touches right there. When that light comes on, then I'm at 50 pounds. And that's what we're looking for. So that's at torque. But what I learned years ago, that's got a ways to go yet. Okay. What I learned a long time ago was, you know, if your tune-up is off, it doesn't care what you do. It's going to push the cylinder head off. If your tune-up is on, it can be very forgiving. And I learned that the hard way. I mean, it was a bear. So now that those are done, we'll run these bottom ones down and torque them. But I don't need to bore you with that because there's something else I want to show you while we have you. And that is how we put our mags in. So this is designed after a traditional Chrysler Hemi block, and this is where the distributor would go. For us, it's obviously not a distributor. It's a mag drive because we've got two mag 44s that are going to be driven off of that cam gear, if you can see that down in there, but that's what it drives off of. So now what we've got to do is we've got to phase the mags. And people get confused by this. Since the timing of this motor is not determined by where the rotors are, where the generators are, that's not what determines when it fires. What determines when it fires are the crank triggers. And that was on the video I haven't posted yet either. We went over that a little bit. But there's a degree wheel here that has magnets every 90 degrees. And then that is the pickup for the black side. This is the pickup for the red side. And when that magnet goes by every 90 degrees, then it tells it to fire now, now, now. So now we've got signal every 90 degrees telling it fire now, now, now. That signal is sent up to the command module. And that's the computer here, right here. And that computer will then adjust the timing. Turn that on, and that's it. By electromotion, one of the smartest guys in the world, Dave Leahy, he builds that. And this box will allow me to adjust the ignition timing up to 15 times in a 5-second pass. In addition to adjusting the ignition timing, it also does the fuel delivery to the motor by allowing me in up to 15 increments in 5 seconds to adjust how much fuel goes back to the tank. It's all controlled on the return side. So if I want the motor to be richer, then I would return less. If I want to lean it out, I would return more. And that's controlled by that device. It's going to continue to pop and snap if I don't turn it off. So that's the ignition switch that I put. Yeah, that's controlled through that valve there called the BDK. So I'm going to turn the ignition switch off back here. That controls the power up here that Trevor turns on. And now we're back off. Okay, so those crank triggers send the signal to the command module. Command module makes the adjustments that I've got programmed into it, sends it back to the generators, and the generators are going to fire when I tell it to fire on that, based on where that the degree wheel is. So let's just pick a number. If I wanted them to fire at 50 degrees, they're going to fire when that motor's at 50 degrees. The problem is it doesn't give a rat's hind end where the rotor is. So if the rotor happens to be pointed in the same direction, life is good, it's going to work. But it doesn't care where that rotor is. You could have that rotor on another cylinder. You could have it 25 degrees off on the right cylinder. It's still going to be told to fire when that command module tells it to fire. Therefore, it's really important that we phase the rotors to have them pointed where I want them to point. So if we were going to fire number one cylinder at 50 degrees for top dead center, then those rotors better be pointed in somewhere close to that. And we've got a little bit of black magic we do there. Since we adjust the timing, how do we know where to phase them? Do we phase them at 50 or 55 or 60? So there's some options there, but we'll save that for another video. The point is, it better be on the correct cylinder, not 180 off, huh, Chris?
No.
And it better be pretty dang close. So how do I determine that? I guess I need a pair of lifters, don't I? And those lifters were in the bucket right there. There they are. These are lifters that are all ready to go. So I'm just going to grab one pair of them. And these are lifters for the A or the B block motor. They're the 1-inch lifters. So they've been cleaned in the sonic cleaner and then checked for the rollers to make sure they're good and that they haven't spread. And then they get soaked in oil. And then they're ready to go. If I can get them to drop in now on cue.
Only one is just an eighth with a problem to get them in.
These are the small lifters that we have. So now I've got my push rods. The intake's the short one, the exhaust is the long one. And I'm just going to drop this in. Why do we have push rods now if we don't even have rocker assembly? Here's why. Because the big key is to make dadgum sure that you're on number one. And if you know how these motors work, you know that for every crankshaft revolution, you're only covering half the cylinder. So you got 90-degree marks. So 1, and then you go through your firing order here, 1, 8, 7, 3, 6, 5, 4, 2, because we've got a swap order cam, reverse order cam. In any event, so you notice that 1 and 6 both occur at 0. 8 and 5 both occur at 90. 7 and 4 at 180, and 3 and 2 both occupy 270. So since 1 and 6 both happen at 0, if I put it on 0, how do I know I have the right one? And that's what I'm going to show you how we figure out. So what I do is now that I've got the cam timed, and I did that a couple of days ago, I put the cam in and timed it, got it where I want. So now as I turn this motor over, and I think we're on the right one because they're not moving, I've just crossed 0 on that degree wheel. But I'm going to go all the way around here, and we have compression, because we got spark plugs in it that we did to test the cylinder head. Anyway, as I come on around, back around to 0 here, now I'm on 60, 50, 30, and I can feel these push rods going up and down because they're in overlap now, because it's on the back side. This would be top dead center for number 6, not number 1, as this is now moving those push rods. So I'm going to keep going around again, and as I get back around to the other 0, then these push rods are going to go back. Yep, I'm at 60, and they've bottomed out. So this is the compression stroke. Both valves are closed because the cam lobe has got these push rods down, the valves down, the rockers down. Now it's building compression as it comes up to go kaboom somewhere where we set the timing. But I know that I'm on the correct 0, number 1, because those push rods are not moving. So now I'm at 0. I'm going to back up to where I want to put the motor for phasing those mags, and I'm going to put it my magic number here, and then we're going to try to drop. You want me to film while you do that, or you want to do it? Okay. Then what we got to do is grab our mag drive, and the mags are marked. I just need to set this somewhere for a minute so I can point. The generators are marked. Oh, that'd be nice if we put the clamps on, wouldn't it, Chris? We never got those darn clamps on. That wasn't too smart. So we need to do that here. So I just got to set this in here so I can get those clamps on. Sorry, these clamps need to go on. And we didn't get that far. We meant to, but we did not. Yes, so did that one. Let me grab this. Let me grab that. And we need the big 1/4 inch. There it is, and we need the bolts. This will help us a bunch. Put that one in, and just tightening the mag clamp here to hold this thing still. And so that will hold that. Went a long ways. Of course it did. All right, so I've got these mags out from where I want them to go. No, I just need to rotate this around. Okay, so here we go. See the black mark? Okay, we've marked these bases. It's not the cap, it's the base. So there's a red mark on the black one and a black mark on the red one. And that tells me where number 1 is. But I need to get this clamp in first. So bear with me just a minute here. Let me get this thing on. Yeah, it's backwards, but I will fix that. I will fix that later. I just want to get this thing on. So let me get that kind of sort of snug, so don't fall out on the ground here. It's a lot of money to fall out on the darn ground.
Loosen those on the first start anyway.
Yeah, so yeah, that's how we adjust them for real. But anyway, so we've already established where the motor is. The motor's on number 1, and it's about 60 degrees for top dead center right now. The problem is these rotors are not pointed anywhere close to number 1. So if we fired there, it would fire on, I don't know what number that is, 4, 6 or something, 4 probably. But it'd be way off, and it'd make a loud boom that would not be a good boom. It'd tear stuff up. So I'm just going to pull these out. So this shaft, that shaft goes down to the oil pump, and that's what drives the oil pump. This bronze gear, which is brand new, we just installed it, will ride on that cam gear down there, and that cam gear there is what rotates the whole darn thing. But right now, I've got to rotate these to get them to point at number 1. And I tell you what, that is way harder to do than you might think. And all we're doing, the only thing that is fighting us are magnets. But they, oh God, they're stout mother magnets. Okay.
You need to be a mad scientist with a passion.
God. Okay, so now we've got them pointing close to number 1. And I'm going to get a little knocker loose, otherwise known as assembly lube. Now this I use the assembly lube on, and it works great here. I don't want to put this in dry, obviously. I'm going to get some on the shaft. I get some on that bronze gear. And that will do just finely. So now when I go in, I've got to catch it. And the gear is got a curve to it. So I got to catch it where it will catch and then drop in. And then be pointing close to number 1. Okay, I think I got close. So there's a base below this mag drive that this bolt is going to go in right here. And yeah, it's right bolt. And so now if I find the correct hole there on that mag drive base, look at that. Now that bolt isn't all the way in, but I found the hole, and look at that. They're pointing real close to number 1. That one needs to be adjusted. This is not on, so we'll loosen that clamp and we'll rotate it. But this one's close. This one's not. So what do we do there? Well, let me get this big wrench and drive that in so it won't fall out on the ground, preferably. And then there's another clamp that goes on this stud here that holds it in. Yeah, they're there somewhere. This will work for right now, though. It'll keep it from falling on the ground. And I'll snug that up. And then I'm going to loosen this black mag up here and rotate that. So I've got to take it actually all the way out because it's off by 1 hole. So I got to take it back out. You know, we probably should have had all this stuff done for you, but this is the real way it works in the shop. When you guys aren't here and you're not watching, this is what we have to do. You got to figure all this stuff out and don't screw up. Because if this thing with these mags fires on the wrong hole, nothing good happens. So I'm just going to lift that up and rotate that 1. And now see how far off I am. And I'm going to have to turn this base. So I got to loosen this too. So I need the small one too. I tighten the handcuffs. The purple deal is called a handcuff. And it just stabilizes the 2 mags as it's going down the track. They're so dadgum heavy that they want to shake and do bad things. So those handcuffs tie them together to stabilize them. So I'm just turning this so I can get it to fall in to where it needs to be here. About right there. So, and that's, I think, too far off. Okay, yep, that is way too far off. I don't want it there. I want it there. That's better. So now it's the mag drive cross male is in the receiving female in the drive. So the cross is on the bottom of the generator, the receiver, and the mag drive. And I don't have the clamp on yet, so I can rotate this generator, and that's what I'll do when it's running, and we'll actually put a timing light on it. But I can get them real close here on the bench, so I'll adjust that a little bit. Let me get this clamp back on here now. I got this much closer. And snug that up. And with the degree wheel where I want it, then this just needs to be close to that number 1 mark. So I'll put it about right there. And that's plenty close enough to start. You know, if you start it and the timing comes out at 30 degrees or 40 or 50, it's fine for starting it on the jack stands because you can adjust it from there. And now I need to adjust the red mag to get it closer. I think I got this clamp on upside down. I'll move that later. But I just need to adjust it for right now. So I loosen that clamp, and it kind of came in. I just want that rotor tip to point closely to that black mark so I know it's pointing close to number 1. I'm just going to snug this up for now. I'll move it later. You know what? This needs to be upside down, though. Hang on here. I'm going to do it right now. This is upside down. Yeah, sorry for the hassle, but this is the reality of what we go through. Put that upside down, put it back on there.
Everything only has to be perfect.
Yeah, there's only one way it works. And if it's not right, boy, it will make you pay. Oh my goodness, will it make you pay? So we'll be posting some videos this weekend. We've got a new sponsor that's come on board we're pretty dang excited about, that's helping us out with some awesome product we're really excited about. We'll be announcing that this weekend. I had to promise Trevor I wouldn't say who it is. Now I'd get shot. But we will be doing that this weekend, and we're real excited about that. So now I've got both rotor tips pointed. You wonder why this is shaking. I don't have this rotor tight on here yet. We just set it on there, so it's not tight. We'll tighten that. So both rotor tips are pointed very closely to the marks that indicate where number 1 is. I've got the degree wheel where I want it, and I know I'm on number 1. So that would now be safe to start with those rotors pointed there. And nothing would blow up, and that's always a good day. So that's how the mags go in. That's how the cylinder head goes on. I'm going to torque the bottom nuts now, and that will complete the clamp because you've got 8 head studs on the bottom. It'll pull it down just fine. The bottom's never the problem. The top is always the problem. And we'll get the manifold on, and we'll be ready to go here. We've got a couple days left to go. But we wanted to show you a little bit about what was going on. Apologize for not posting a video for a while, and tell you we've got some challenging things we're talking about, and we're trying to make a nice video you're going to want to watch that isn't too dang depressing, because I was depressed with some of the damage I came home with. That was a bear. So that's what I know for now. If you all have any questions, please let me know. I'll do the best I can. You guys have asked some really good questions, and I've gone back and posted answers to them to the best of my ability. So I appreciate you all taking time to watch. You could be watching anything else right now. There's a lot of videos, a lot prettier girls than what I look like, for darn sure. So I appreciate your time and attention. Josh, too. So thank you much. Post questions, and I'll get back and answer them for you. Thank you for your time, guys. We really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. We'll get this posted over on YouTube here shortly. Thank you much.